left. They're draining our tanks. There's 100 gallons right there. Boom, the first 100 gallons.
Well, actually, that's the fourth 100 gallons.
That's the fourth?
We did 100 gallons, and then we did 200 gallons, and we're on the second 200 gallons now.
So you're going for a total of about 400 gallons of gas.
4 or 5.
Good God. Let's see. 500 gallons at 470.
Yeah. Do the math.
Woohoo! Yeah.
That's why it costs $4.25 to go for a ride.
There you go. B25 is a thirsty bird at 120 gallons an hour. Well, Nevada County Airfest 2019 is in the bag. We had a record-breaking attendance numbers this year. The crew of Executive Suite here are absolutely ecstatic. They had a record number of rides sold yesterday here at the Airfest. 8 rides in one day, 6 or 7 passengers apiece. They just took on over 400 gallons of gas, and they just loved the care and attention that they got here at the Nevada County Airfest. And I want to thank you guys, the Blancolirio viewers. A lot of the riders were brought to the attention to come up and get the ride by watching these videos. So thanks so much for coming up and helping support Executive Suite and the Nevada County Airfest this year. And I also wanted to mention that all the proceeds of the profits of this entire event, the Nevada County Airfest, goes towards creating pilot scholarships for young pilots to get into aviation. So an individual scholarship can be as much as $5,000. Dozens and dozens of you guys came up and said hi during the Airfest, and that was really, really neat. It really made my day to actually say hi in person to many of the viewers of the Blancolirio channel. So I'll post a couple of highlight clips here at the end of this. So I did a cockpit tour of the B-25. I'll add that as well, and we'll see you here. Thanks for watching. Let's do a quick cockpit familiarization video. I'll show you those functions that I know here in the B-25 cockpit, as things are designed quite a bit different back in World War II. First, it's a small cockpit, as you can see from the flying video. Maybe we'll start down here with a lot of hydraulics. We've got the hand pump here to pump up the hydraulics. It looks like a left-hand emergency brake, a right-hand emergency brake, so looks like you can get differential braking through the emergency system. This is right in between the 2 cockpit seats. Rudder trim, right and left rudder trim. And I'm not, aileron trim right there it says. This is landing gear lever. This is your main landing gear lever, not the emergency, but it looks like the main one. Wing flaps. Wing flaps do not have notches, so it's very critical for the first officer, the co-pilot, to operate these wing flaps, because the pilot has his hands full flying the aircraft, to operate them correctly, particularly in a go-around. You don't want to retract these flaps completely in the event of a go-around, or you'll sink too much. Here's your cowl flap controls, which operate the cowl flaps there on the engine for cooling. Open them up for takeoff and landing, and close them up for cruise flight generally. Moving up here, we got supercharger controls here. I assume they're locked out. Oh, I can't even read that. That might be carburetor heat right there. Here's an all-important throttle lock to keep the throttles from walking around on you while you're operating them. Of course, here's your throttle quadrant. So you got throttles, props, and mixture. All right, moving along here. Let me get a seat here. You got your standard kind of a T instrument cluster set up in this B-25 now, and you got duplicate instruments on left and right. So your artificial horizon, airspeed indicator, note the blue line right there, about 140 miles an hour, 160 miles an hour, Is that going to be, I'll have to ask the guys if that's your flap or gear speed. John's not here. And a VNE over 300 miles an hour. Turn bank coordinator, in-op ILS, vertical speed indicator, your rate of climb, a G meter down here. Okay, and these gauges are in-op. It looks like your 3-gear down lights up here, a gear up on safe light. Nose gear, interesting. Warning, nose gear turn beyond 15 degrees. You don't want to bang the stops on the nose gear. Okay, the all-important manifold pressure, which is controlled by your throttles. The RPM, which is controlled by the props. Constant speed propellers. And it looks like a 2100 to 2300 green line, or correction, 2100 to 2400 is the green line, and they're like, well, and then they'll bring it down into blue. They'll cruise around at 1700 RPM and about maybe 24 inches of manifold pressure. And if done right in the pattern, you can set that and forget that power setting and control the rest of your airspeed with configuration, with drag between the landing gear and the application of flaps, just chopping the throttles on final. Of course, here's your radio stack here in the middle. Brake pressure in the green, hydraulic pressure in the green, bomb bay doors open, cylinder head temperatures of the two engines. These are hot engines, they just landed, they're still in the green. That's why you see them after they land, they'll stabilize these temperatures upon landing before shutting down the engines by running the engines, maybe 1,000 RPM or so before shutting them down for a minute or so. A repeat of the flying instruments here. All important oil temperature located right here. Carburetor air temperature right here. Fuel pressure right here, left and right. There's 2 needles in these gauges. Same with the oil pressure, left and right. So you can compare the needles between the engines, and it catches your attention right away when they're not lined up. Fuel tanks, front tanks, fuel tanks, rear tanks, quantity indicators, in-op aux tank over here, gauge. Placarding, maximum airspeed with landing gear flaps extended to 170 miles an hour. So that's the yellow line, 150, 160, 170 miles an hour. Don't operate the de-icers. Well, they don't have de-icers anymore. Got to operate your aircraft within the limitations at all times. Well, everybody knows that. All right, now it gets a little more complicated. Here on the center panel, we got feather control buttons here, left and right engine to feather the prop to get them streamlined into the wind in the event of an engine failure. Magneto switches, left, right, and master. Fuel transfer. Fire detection system, fuel boost pumps, emergency off and normal, primer, left and right, engine starter, left and right. Mesh and energize. So this is where they're bump starting the engines. These are inertia starters. So you need to wind up the starters before you engage them by engaging the mesh. When you're bumping the engines, that is just clearing them of oil to prevent hydraulic lock, you mesh the starter first and then gently bump the engine over by intermittently hitting the starter energizer circuit. These engines are pre-oiled using electric pump pre-oilers, which are switched here for the right and here for the left. Before you start the engines, you pre-oil them, get oil pressure up to the engine, and you look for a few PSI of oil pressure right here. And then you go through the engine bump procedure for the first start of the day. These are the engine fire switches here and there. Left one there, right one here. Red guarded switch for a fire extinguisher. Of course, here's your elevator trim located here. Authentic, genuine North American Aviation rudder pedals with the brakes. The brakes are on top. top of the rudder pedals right there. Park and brake is set. We have left generator, right generator, failure lights, and disconnect switches. A voltmeter, and here you've got some gauges to troubleshoot your electrical system. Voltmeter, and left amp meter, right amp meter, load meter. Basically an amp meter. There's AC volts over here. They got an inverter. I wonder what they're using AC for. We'll have to ask the crew. And bomb bay doors open and close. Up here you typically have a push-to-talk switch, and you would also be able to actuate, I would assume, bomb bay doors from up here as well, or bombs themselves, if you had them. Whiskey compass, emergency hatch overhead, some curtains. Here's your emergency hatch actuation. Get it up and out of there. What do we got back here? Prop anti-icing, windshield anti-icing, windshield wiper, floodlights, some old radio gear, and an oxygen bottle, paperwork case, 2 jump seats in the back there. There's your hydraulic reservoir, main hydraulic reservoir. And there's some more controls down there for the hydraulic system. And there's the foldable steps that fold out and allow you access up into the turret overhead. All right, any questions on the brief? Brief's complete. Let's go flying. Now, I did my flying on Sunday. It's time to let some other folks have the experience. $425, it's well worth the ride. Executive Suite, Nevada County Airport. Airfest 2019. Day 2, Sunday. See you here.
Our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner wave for the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Yeah!
Hey Juan, you're gonna have to take.
Perfect!
You're gonna have to take over. I got tears in my eyes. I am choked up.
That just watered my eyes, Sue. Fantastic.
Beautiful.
What timing.
And oh boy, that B-25. Could not
Oh.
have planned that. Welcome to the Grass Valley Air Show and Brewfest, and what a welcome that was. Thank you, Sue, so much.
That was perfect. That's some catch, that catch 22.